Welcome to another episode of our podcast. This is the last one, actually. We already talked about the various parts of solar PV systems in the process of setting up solar systems, installation, the actual planning before, troubleshooting. But most important is that the system works for a long time so that the user gets the most out of the system. So maintenance is a very important topic. Let's talk about maintenance today. I invited an expert on this topic, Yonas Workie from Suntransfer, an Ethiopian company. Yonas, thank you for joining us. Maybe you can introduce yourself with a few words.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. My name is Yonas from Suntransfer Tech PLC. We are located here in Ethiopia. Suntransfer is established in 2012, and we are mainly engaged in off-grid energy solutions. I'm just the general manager of this company. We have done various projects starting from solar lanterns, so various solar home systems are distributed, and we have done also bigger projects like solar water pumping, solar off-grid systems for schools, health posts, and various institutions. So Suntransfer is a company engaged in providing off-grid energy solutions for rural community in Ethiopia.
Okay, interesting. So when you install so many systems, you probably also have many to maintain. Can you tell us a bit what systems are you maintaining right now? Do you have any maintenance contracts?
Yeah, we are doing maintenance for relatively larger systems like a water pumping system or a system for institutions like 5 kilowatt or 10 kilowatt off-grid solar energy solutions. So we are doing maintenance for bigger systems. For small systems, usually customers bring their products because they are mostly portable. So we do maintenance in our facility here in Addis for those kind of products. But and for installed systems, for bigger systems, we need to travel to the site to do maintenance.
Okay. Let's get to that a bit later, talking about how a company can offer maintenance. First of all, what is maintenance even? Let's answer that question at the beginning.
Yeah, maintenance is a kind of doing repair or after sale service for installed systems. It's mainly to bring the system or the product work continuously for a long period of time. So maintenance is a kind of repair or a kind of after sale service you are giving for your end user or for the customer to make the system work for sustainably for a long period of time.
What are tasks that you typically do for maintenance?
Yeah, for the maintenance, we start with a simple task like, for example, observing the system. That might start by cleaning the solar panels, any electronic equipment with dusts. We need to clean them. If there is any rust or dust on the battery side, we clean them. So it starts from cleaning. Then for maintenance, you need to again troubleshoot the system before doing any maintenance. We will try to understand what's going wrong with the system. We measure, we then understand the problem, and according to the result, the troubleshooting, we do the repair or maintenance. So it starts from the simple task, and then step by step measuring the systems and identifying through troubleshooting where the problem happened, and then we do the repair based on those findings.
How is it different for the different sizes of PV systems? I mean, let's look at the very small ones first, maybe those off-grid systems below 1 kilowatt.
Yeah, for smaller systems, usually when you are doing the simplest tasks like cleaning and observing the system, you will see the problems. Usually, the solar panel might not be situated in a proper position, or there might be a kind of shadow or dust on the solar panel. By cleaning those things, by adjusting the solar panel, you simply identify the problem and do maintenance for smaller systems. Smaller systems, less than 1 kilowatt, that might include solar home systems or solar lanterns, usually kind of a kit, a plug and play kind of systems. You are not getting, into measuring or detail, repair tasks. You simply observe the system and understand if it is properly situated on the roof of the solar panel, or if there is any unplugged item, if there is any cut cable, or if there is any rust or dust on the equipment. You remove those problems, and then it will be easier for small systems.
Okay. How often would you recommend to do those checks?
Usually what we do during our installation phase, we normally train our end user to do routine checkups. So most of the problems will actually be solved by the end user itself. We don't need to fix for every time the problem happens, because some of the things, as I've told you, is about cleaning. So we normally do on-job training during installation. We train our end user to do cleaning for example, every week. It depends on the location, whether it's dusty or not, actually. But the customer has to clean their system. They have to clean every time. If it is very dusty area, they have to clean every week or every 15 days, clean their panels, clean their batteries, and etc. By doing that, they will keep their system working for a long period of time. You don't need to travel to do such kind of things. The end user do this kind of maintenance. But if there is any serious problem, then apart from this cleaning, then we do maintenance, maybe twice in a year or 3 times in a year. That's the usual duration we do maintenance for our end user.
Okay. How is it for bigger systems, like 1 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt off-grid systems?
Yeah, for those kind of bigger systems, what we do during our implementation phase, we do have contract with our end user, with our customer, to do after-sale service, because these kind of systems need really follow-ups, after the installation during first 3 years or some duration. So what we do is we will have a contract with the end user to have after-sale service, to have a visit every maybe twice in a year. We travel to the site and do check up on the systems, if there is any problem or not, or if it's still without working or operational without any problem. If there is any issue, we report to the customer. We do maintenance accordingly. But we will have contract. That's a key issue. If it's a big system, you need to have a kind of agreement with your client to visit the systems like twice in a year, for example, or 3 times in a year, according to the type of system and the remoteness of the system, the location. So this is how we do maintenance for bigger systems.
Okay. And can you describe, take us with you on such a maintenance visit? Can you explain a typical day when you have a maintenance visit scheduled? What do you do?
When we arrive, we first, what we do is we contact the end user. First, we are going to come first. Before we depart from our location, we contact the end user, the schedule, the timing, because we want the end user to be available at their house or at the location, so that we can look at the system. So then when we arrive, what we do is we observe the timing, because whether it's a sunny day or a cloudy day, or the thing, because when we do maintenance, we need to measure values from the solar panel to the charge controller, from charge to the battery. So we need to understand the sunny condition at the moment. So we will observe that, we record. We prefer during our visit, the sun has to be there to measure things. So we understand that if it's very cloudy or if it's at night, we need to see that situation in our procedure, in our maintenance procedure. So we record that, we observe that. then we will start with the solar panel. What we do is, if it is roof mounted, we'll go up on the roof if the panel is oriented properly, if there is any broken part on the panel, if there is any shadow on the panel, if there is even some drops, or there might be some kind of drops on the panel from birds or from trees or something like that. So we observe that, and we then observe the cabling from the solar panel to the charge controller, and then we go down to observe the battery situation, whether it's properly connected, if there is any disconnection, or if there is any rust on the battery terminals. So we'll observe the whole system initially. Then we'll step by step try to remove those, if there is any those problems on observation, if there is any disconnection, or if there is any on the solar panel side, if there is any shadow, we remove that, and if there is any orientation problem, we adjust that problem. Then the second step will be measuring. If the problems removed during our first phase, then that will end. If there is still a problem, then we'll start measuring at each point, from the solar panel to charge controller, from the charge controller to the battery. And then if there is inverter, if there is any AC system, we will check also from the battery to the inverter point, and then to the loads. So we measure all those points, and according to our measurement, if there is any problem with the cabling and with the charging process, discharging process, then we'll fix that problem in the second phase. So this is the steps how we process during our maintenance in typical schedule in our maintenance.
And how do you remember all the steps? Do you have kind of a checklist, or how do you work?
Sure, that's a must, because even before we depart from our location, we prepare our checklist. We know all the steps how we have to do the maintenance and the troubleshooting. Then so we prepare our checklist, and then we'll travel with that material. And we prepare our tools as well. It's not only checkbook and checklist. We prepare our maintenance tools like measuring units, cleaning material, and etc. So we prepare all those things, and that's a must to do the routine maintenance.
And do you also, like when you do the measuring, do you also keep the measuring results, and then when you return for the next visit, you compare how the performance of the system changed?
Exactly. According to our checklist, we measure all as I've told you. First, we observe the system, then we start measuring. When we measure, we record on our checklist. We have a checkbook with all those values on the table, so we measure every step, from the solar panel to from charge control to battery, and then inverter and the loads. So all the values are recorded and even filed for the for the future, reference. So that's a must. Yeah.
Okay. And what is different now when the systems are really big, like systems over 10 kilowatt, off-grid and possibly also grid-tied or backup systems?
Yeah, for the bigger systems nowadays, there is this technology to do online monitoring. We know this is a very efficient way of doing maintenance by observing and looking at the system remotely. That's very important for the bigger systems. So we normally recommend this kind of online monitoring system for bigger systems. But the other problem is this kind of remote monitoring has its own costs for the end user. Most of the rural customers, the problem is that they don't afford to have these options, online monitoring, because it has its own costs. But for us, we recommend for bigger systems like above 10 kilowatt, 20 kilowatt to have remote monitoring because there are a lot of equipment involved in that system. And if it is a very remote area, it's not cost effective to every time to travel to that remote area as well to do maintenance, actual maintenance, physical maintenance. So we recommend online monitoring. and that will save a lot of time in the long run. Though sometimes customers doesn't understand the time value of money or the costs in terms of long period of time. But we recommend online monitoring for a bigger systems. But if it's not that, if the remote monitoring or online monitoring is not an option for the customers, we still need to have a kind of after-sale service with contract agreement for repeated, checkups for the systems, maybe 3 times in a year or 4 times in a year to do the maintenance.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, if the monitoring system costs as much as the whole PV system, it doesn't really make sense. Then you could just drive out to maintain it. But for the bigger systems, if you have essential loads connected to it and you want it to work all the time, then, and the system was really expensive because it is really big, then it does make sense to get also an appropriate monitoring system. On the monitoring system, the online monitoring, how does it work exactly? What can you see in there, and how does remote monitoring work?
Yeah, online remote monitoring will work based on the communication infrastructure available at the location. It might be based on internet, or it might be based on GSM network, using mobile network. So according to the situation at the site or in the area, you can use either Wi-Fi based internet connection or mobile phone data connection. Then you don't need to physically travel to the site to monitor. Then you'll have your equipments at your central office in your head office, so you can remotely monitor the system installed in the rural area or in the remote area. What you will get for this kind of with this kind of monitoring is you can really measure the kind of data you want to gather from the site. For example, you can have voltage scenario. You can really get online data from the system, like voltage coming from the solar panel, charging current, discharging current, and even the state of charge of the battery, whether it's at absorption phase or float phase or bulk phase. So, and you can also get a kind of data like if there is any fault or error on the system, the online data or the online system will give you if there is any alarm or a kind of fault code from the system. So all the measurement values you physically want to measure or understand, you will get it online without traveling to the site.
And what do you do then when you spot an error in the online monitoring system? What is the procedure?
The very interesting and very important aspect of this online monitoring is you'll get up-to-date data in a very quickly manner. That's the advantage. If there is any problem, you immediately get it online. So you'll understand the problem very quickly, and you can act or do action as quickly as possible. So what you do is whenever you have a kind of data that shows a kind of error on the system or a different value of voltage or charging current or discharging current, then you immediately start to take action, either online action or physical action. You can, for example, use the online monitoring to adjust the setup, so setting of the system. You can remotely adjust the voltage, or if there is any error on the system that might be based on software or a kind of problem related to the charge controller or inverter, you can remotely fix the system. If the problem or the error is a kind of error that you need to travel and fix it physically, then you can quickly act accordingly without having a problem for long period of time without observing or without having any action. So that will be very helpful.
Yeah, okay. I think that's quite important if you have solar systems for a hospital or something where you really need the power to work all the time.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Online monitoring has been very popular for years already in the grid-tied market. And in Europe, it's kind of a normal thing that you have online monitoring. What is different in a country like Ethiopia, in the off-grid market and in the more remote areas?
Yeah, the thing is here in Ethiopia, off-grid market, online monitoring will be helpful for bigger systems because it will solve a lot of problem in, for example, in accessing the site. Sometimes these sites are very remote that you cannot easily travel. You might need to walk for maybe hours to arrive to this site, some of these sites. So it's not really advantageous or cost effective to have physically travel every time to observe the systems. So in our case, in Ethiopia, most of the rural locations or the off-grid locations are very, really remote, sometimes with no proper road access that you do a routine maintenance. So online monitoring will be helpful to solve some of this problem. For example, we have installed various solar water pumping system in a very remote area. As you know, water source locations are again very remote. Sometimes in a river which is located away from rural village itself. So those locations have a bigger system, solar water pumping system with solar panels, like 20 kilowatt solar panel with inverter, etc. If you do have this online monitoring in that location, then it will save you a lot of money, and it will guarantee the system works for a long period of time. So online monitoring will be very effective in Ethiopian condition where the locations are very remote. So that is the thing. But the other side is the cost. So most of the time, these remote monitoring equipment are provided in a project proposal as an option. It's not a kind of main product included in a project. So always customers or end users see it as kind of option. It's not like an important part of the project. But we think this option should be considered as main part of the system for a location which are very remote that cost you a lot of money in the long run. But this equipment saves you a lot of money in the long run. So it should be considered as a main product actually in this sense. But the situation is here in Ethiopia, projects and contracts coming from government or international NGOs really don't understand the advantages of remote monitoring, and even suppliers from Europe just give you as an option in terms of cost and other procurement procedures. So this is the situations, but nowadays I think during some kind of trainings, awareness creations of bigger companies, doing some webinar, really organizations are now trying to understand the importance of this remote monitoring, and I think in the near future it will change. That's my view.
So it's also the responsibility of the installer to make that part of the job, to explain the relevance of monitoring at the beginning.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. It's also our responsibility to really teach or train or give some kind of information for end users, for contractors, for project providers to understand the importance of the remote monitoring and to include it in their project requirement. Yeah, that's very important.
I mean, if you look at your car, for example, you also don't buy the car and drive it until it dies. You go and you do checks, you change the oil and, I don't know, change the tires, whatever you do. And a solar system is really made to run over 20 years. So I find it, imagine this is even more important. How can a system or a piece of technology run over 20 years without being properly maintained? It should be like a normal thing, actually.
Exactly. Yeah, we usually say, the systems, for example, as you said, the solar panel have a guarantee of 20 or 25 years. But we don't really think how the systems keep running for 20 years. It's not only the solar panel, the batteries, the inverters has to be, all the cabling has to continue to work for 20 years if it's really, meant to really run for 20 years. So that's very important. We need to, give information to various stakeholders in this regard about the importance of remote monitoring, and that's very important. Yeah.
And can we go back to the role of the end user? You mentioned that you also teach the end user, especially for the smaller systems, to clean their systems and take over tasks. What else do they need to do?
Yeah, we normally have, according to, as you said, according to the system type, we have our on-job training procedures for the end users during installation, what to do, what not to do about the systems. We give them training. For example, if the system doesn't have any, usually so far we don't have this online remote monitoring experience with the end users, but what we do is we train them how to clean. That's the first step, how to clean the system, the solar panels, and some points in the system, like on the battery and inverters. They have to keep clean. And then what we inform them is how to observe and report about problems. For example, we normally have inverters and charge controllers that can show a kind of information for that can be understandable by the end user itself, not by the installer only, always. For example, LEDs on the charge control give you the state of charge of the batteries. If it is green, that is full. If it is yellow, that's 50%. If it is red, that's empty. So we will tell them how to observe the situation and report to us every time. And if the system is, for example, a water pumping system, you will have also a kind of information on the pump inverter, whether the pump is running without any problem, if it is operational, or if there is any problem or error on the inverter. There is information that can be read by anybody. So we'll tell them, whenever you have this kind of information on the inverter, you tell us or you report to us. Then accordingly, we do maintenance for that, for the problems happened. So these kind of trainings are given for the end user, and they always check their system, and then accordingly they report. They will call us or give information to any agent close to their location. So accordingly, we will have that information and we do maintenance. So the end user has this responsibility to do routine checkups and observe, and that's the only responsibility for the end user.
And how do you do the instruction of the end client and the reporting for them? Do you tell them, or do you have like a handout or checklists for the end clients as well?
Yeah, depending on the system size and kind of equipment involved. If it is a small system that needs basically cleaning, then they have this. We give them normally a manual about the system. That's also part of the training. We have that procedure for the end user that is prepared on the end user's aspect, not only on necessarily on the technical side, but only on the troubleshooting or observation procedures for the end user. So that's very important. So according to that manual, they will check, and then if there is anything new, they will record and they report according to that manual prepared for the end user. So that's very important. And what they can do, as I said, normally the first phase of maintenance is observation and cleaning. Yeah. So this can be done by the end user itself. It doesn't need to involve the installer or the technical person from the main office or from the very far location. So they can do cleaning, They can do cleaning on the solar panel, on the battery, on charge control, on the inverter. So according to this procedure, they will do their normal maintenance as well. So this is the procedure.
Okay. Good. So now we know how the monitoring works and what roles the different people take over in the process. How does it look like from the business side of things? How do you do maintenance as a company?
Yeah, from the business aspects, it's always challenging. Doing maintenance, always it involves costs. It has its own costs doing maintenance, and it's always a challenge for the business company to cover costs, in a sufficient way. So that's why we always need a kind of agreement with the end user at the beginning of the system installation to do after sales service observation, and so that to properly handle the maintenance issues without worrying about the costs. So that's very important, and if really included at the beginning during the project preparation, that will solve a lot of problems, because the end user, the customer, really understand at the beginning about the sustainability of the system, that will have related costs related to maintenance and repair. Then it's really included at the beginning or accepted by the end user, that will solve a lot of problems, and it's part of the business also for the company involved in this project. So if it is not really considered initially or understood by the end user and everybody, then that will have a lot of problem later stage, because the end user will not really consider paying for this kind of costs at the later stage. So it needs to be understood initially. It needs to really see every stakeholder seriously. It has a cost. It has to be included at the project phase. Then that will be really sustainable for everybody, for the company, for the end user, for the system. That will work without any problem. Otherwise, if it is coming later after the system is installed, and then if we are incurring costs every time, that will not be considered by the end user, that will create a lot of problem. It will incur a lot of cost for the company, and it will not be accepted by the end user. That's a problem. We need to solve it at the initial stage, and everybody has to understand that. If it is really understood, then the customer will be the beneficiary at the end of the time, because the system will work for a long period of time. That will solve a lot of cost for the end user. If you are doing at the later stage, then there might be some kind of delays. Actually, you might not get the maintenance in a timely manner. That will cost a lot of money for the end user itself, and that will also be a problem for the company to do the maintenance. So that will not solve a lot of the problems related to maintenance if it's not really understood initially. And then from the business point of view, doing maintenance, we have this experience for a long period of time. We have been in this business for about, I can say, as Suntransfer, we have been in this business for the past 8 years, more of 8 years. So we have a lot of experience. We are doing maintenance not only for our own end users. We are doing maintenance for other end users, for those customers who are installing systems from other companies. So we are not only doing maintenance for our own products only. We are doing maintenance for every systems, every customer who want to have kind of maintenance. So having this experience in doing maintenance, understanding the options related to online monitoring or physical maintenance, then that will help. That will be one part of our business aspect as a company, to do maintenance for in this sector for everybody.
I think that's a global trend. That's something that's coming up in Europe, and I also see it in South Africa coming more. Now that many solar systems are installed and they are being installed for a while, they start breaking down and people start missing them when they're gone. So maintenance really becomes a business, and many companies also specialize in maintenance contracts, fixing problems, and taking up on maintenance as a service, basically.
Yeah, that's a trend. Yeah, you're right.
So how does it work, those maintenance contracts? Is it an annual contract and you arrange like 2 visits per year to check the system? Or is it like a standby thing? Whenever something breaks, you go and visit? What is included in the maintenance contract?
Yeah, it depends on the type of customer and type of systems. Kind of the type of contract will have a different setup. One practical example we have is there was a problem with a system installed by a Korean NGO here in Ethiopia, like 3 years ago. It was installed by an NGO, about 60 kilowatt system. So the installation and everything, the equipment, all the installers came from Korea, and they did the installation, and then after some years it breaks down. So somehow they reach out to us, and what we did is we had a contract with them to first visit the site and understand the problem. Troubleshoot the situation, and accordingly we did the troubleshooting, and we tried to fix some of the systems, and actually it needs also a replacement. Some of the items are broken, total damage, so we recommended a report according to our contract, and then finally the system is fixed. So what I want to say is it depends on the customer situation, the kind of contract you are going to have. So if it is a sustainable and long-term contract, then yeah, you will have a contract to, for example, monitor for long period of time. For example, two times visit per year for the coming 5 years, for example. So that kind of contract is possible, but sometimes, here in Ethiopia, customers would like to have quick fix for their problem. They don't want to have kind of 5 years contract to have a continuous. That's very sustainable, and we recommend the kind of contract to have long time agreement, so that the system will work for long period of time and make sure that the problems will not happen every time. We recommend that kind of contract, but actually it depends on the customer interest and type of project you have.
Okay. And from a financial point of view for a company, would you say that maintenance contracts are as lucrative as new installations, or would you prefer doing new installations?
In our context here in Ethiopia, is doing new projects is always advantageous and has a lot of involved business situations. Doing new project or doing new installation have a lot of advantage in terms of profit, but the maintenance business is coming, and we will see it in the future, because a lot of mini grids and bigger projects now are going on in Ethiopia. So far, there are not many big systems installed in Ethiopia, but they are coming. So the maintenance business will be the future in our case here in Ethiopia. But if you are asking me at this moment if there's a new project or if doing maintenance will have a lot of business advantage, doing projects will have a lot of advantage or a lot of profit here.
Okay. But that's a nice perspective for new installers, hey? That there's a niche that they might want to go into and develop into with their business. So that there's new projects, there's installation, there's repairs. So the solar market is not just the installations. Okay, yeah. I think then we covered the most important questions on maintenance and monitoring. It was super interesting. Thank you very much, Yonas, for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you, Vivian, for your time too. And we are happy to share our experience here in Ethiopia. And hopefully, we'll have a lot of conversation in the future about this of green energy, solar energy projects and maintenance and most monitoring. And we'll share a lot of information in the future. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Okay.
Thank you.